So once you've used your curve tool to accurately measure your material thickness, we'll use this piece here as an example. So this example piece measures at 0.199 inches. So we're going to take this measurement and we're going to adjust our drawing to fit that measurement. And this will allow us to get a perfect fit on our joints. So we're coming in here to Adobe Illustrator. And for this example, we're going to show two different scenarios here. One being a rectangle we have to resize, and the other being these slots here. So the first thing we want to do is, if your design has any kind of stroke width, we want to select all of our objects here, and we're going to adjust our stroke width over here in our properties. If you don't have this display, you can go up to Window, and you can come down to Properties. You can also come down to Stroke. That'll open up this here. And we want to adjust this to 0.25 points and click Enter. And now we can close this out. And now we deselect these. You can see they're a lot harder to see, but it's going to give us a nice fine line there. To make these easier to see, you can click Control Y on your keyboard, and that's going to bring us into this outline view, which will make it a little bit easier to see. Now we're going to start with our rectangle here, so let's zoom in on that. We're going to hold Alt and use our scroll wheel to zoom. Now using our selection tool, we're going to click on this rectangle to select it. And in this case, we'd only want to change the height of this rectangle. So we're going to come over here to our properties, and the first thing we want to check is our anchor point. If we want to hold the center position, we're going to select the center point here for our anchor point. That'll keep the center location of this rectangle anchored in its position as we adjust the height. If you want to keep the top position, we'll select the top. And if you want to keep the bottom location anchored, we'll select the bottom. But in this case, we're going to keep it centered, so we're going to select the center point. And now for our width and height, we want to make sure we are unlinked here. So if it looks like this, we are linked together. If it looks like this with a slash, we are unlinked, and that's what we want. So this will allow us to only adjust the height. And also, if your file is not in inches here, we can come up to File, go down to Document Setup, and then here in the units, we want to select inches, and then click OK. And now your document should be in inches. So coming back up here to our properties, we want to select our value here for our height, and we are going to erase this and go to 0.199, click Enter. And now that'll adjust our rectangle to the exact height of our material that we checked with our curve tool. If you had to adjust the width of this rectangle, you could do the same thing, just adjust the width measurement on your properties. Now with our rectangle adjusted, we're going to go over to our slots. So we're going to hold Alt key and zoom in with our scroll wheel. And now we're over to our slots. Now to adjust these slots, there's a few more steps because these are connected to the rest of the design here. So what we have to do first is disconnect these endpoints from the rest of the design. We'll adjust our size and then reconnect them afterwards. So to do that, we're going to go to our scissor tool. You can also type the letter C on your keyboard. And we're going to come over to each of these corners here. We're just going to select each corner, and that'll cut these apart. And we'll do that on both sides here. And after that, if we go back to our selection tool, you can see if we select these, now these are separate from the design here. So now we are able to adjust these individually and then connect them back together. So I'm going to undo that to bring those back to where they were. Now we can actually select both of these at the same time and adjust the height. So we'll do the same thing like we did for the rectangle. We will first want to select our anchor point. If we want to keep these centered where they are now, we're going to select the center anchor point. If we want to keep the slot at the top edge, we'll select the top anchor point. And if we want to keep the bottom edge where it's at, we'll select the bottom anchor point. So in this case, I'm just going to leave it at the center anchor point, and we're going to come over here to our height. Once again, making sure our height and width are not linked together. So we're going to type in here for our height, we're going to type in 0.199 inches and click Enter. And now if we come over here, we deselect these, you can see it looks like they didn't change much. But if we zoom in by holding Alt key and using our scroll wheel, you can see the corners are no longer connected. They're disconnected there. So let's zoom out here. Now we have to connect these back together. And to do that, we're going to use our direct selection tool. And we're going to select our line there. We're going to select the anchor point here. And then we're going to click and drag until it snaps to the other anchor point there. And now we have these endpoints touching, but still not connected. We still have to connect those. We'll do that in our next step. So let's come down here. We'll move this anchor point by selecting the anchor point, moving it up until it touches the other anchor point. And now we're going to zoom out, go to our other side, do the same thing here. We're going to select, move this down. We're going to select this one and move this up. And now all of our corners are touching. But if we go back to our selection tool, select this box here, you could see it's still disconnected. So I'm going to undo that. We'll zoom out here. And also at this time, if you had to adjust the width of one of these boxes, now's the time to do it before we connect them back together. So you can adjust the width using the same method as well. Just make sure if you're adjusting the width on this side, your anchor point is on the left. And if you're adjusting the width on this side, your anchor point would be on the right. So now to join these all together, we're going to select all of these. And now with all of these selected, we're going to go to Object, we're going to go to Path, and then we're going to go to Join. You can also use Control-J on your keyboard. So we're going to click that. And now when we select these boxes, you can see now everything is connected together. And one last thing I'll show you, if you wanted to create one of these cutouts for yourself, if you didn't have one of these already in your design, we can do that by simply using our rectangle tool. And if you wanted to, you can just click and drag to about location where you want it. And we'll put it on the edge of our design there and release. And now we can adjust the height and the width if we had to. So we're going to come back up to our transform objects. We want to be anchored on the right side. So we're going to select the center right position over here. We're going to adjust our width. Let's just say we want it to 1 inch. So we're going to type in 1, click enter. And then our height, we can adjust that as well. Let's say if we wanted that 0.199 inches, click enter. And now you can see that created a rectangle there, the exact size we wanted it. So let's go back to our selection tool. Now if we select this and hold Alt and drag to the other side until it snaps to this other line and release. Now you can see we have one on each side, but now we have to join these together with our outer shape here. So the easiest way I found to do this is to select your rectangle, drag this out just a little bit past your line there, and we'll do that same thing on this side. Just drag this handle out until it extends past our line. Now we're going to select all of our objects here. And in our Pathfinder tool, we're going to select this one here. It says to click to minus front, so we'll click that. And if we look over here, now you can see that join those together and subtracted everything on the outside there. And now we have perfect slots in our design. So when you're done with this, just set up your file however you like, and then save your design and it'll be ready to cut on your laser.